I mean, you can call it God, karma. Like, why would we have experienced such pain if it didn't have any kind of purpose? Usually, pain is the purpose of the body telling you something. But in my case, it was a big thing, and I didn't know what it is.
I've hosted a lot of retreats in my life. I've been on fewer retreats, which is a problem because where I'd really love to go is Lebanon. And I have a place to stay there, it turns out, thanks to today's guest, Aseel Honein. She operates a business outside of Beirut called Indigo Kausba. It's a retreat center, an oasis, and a really peaceful place, particularly for female leaders to go and explore their creative side, their leadership, and of course, build community. Aseel's also an architect by training, and she knows a lot about what it means to make and build experiences as a female in a predominantly male space. I got to meet her several years ago while I was working with a client, and I haven't forgotten about her since. She's halfway around the world, and yet we have a lot in common and a lot that we're conflicted about that we get to talk through today. I hope you enjoy.
So, hello from Lebanon. I'm from the northern region. But of course, I have my apartment that is in the Kisselwen or Juni area, which is in the middle of Lebanon.
So, when you talk about Indigo Kauspa and you talk about your apartment, how far apart are those two places?
1 hour.
1 hour. Okay, so not too bad. It's like a commute that I think some of us who commute can relate to.
You can commute from extreme south to extreme north in 2 hours in Lebanon. So it's a very small country.
So, tell us a little bit about Architecture in a Box. When I met you, you hadn't yet founded Indigo Cow Spa, but you were working in Architecture in a Box and you were going out into the world. And I can only imagine people listening are like, what is that? So, tell us about it.
So at that time when you met me, I was a real estate developer. I taught at the university and I had parallel studio, which means parallel to university, parallel to work. We do community-led projects. And this is what led to Architecture in a Box. Someone left me a card with a note saying, how can you reach more girls? And I thought, how can I reach more girls wanting to know about architecture and STEAM education and their careers? And what if I put it in a box?
I love this focus on girls and on women. When you think about being a real estate developer, you think about being a woman, you are a woman living in Lebanon. What have you seen that's been particularly challenging? And what do you see that's maybe getting better as it relates to being a woman in a male dominated industry for sure, in a culture, like in the United States that we're working toward gender equity, we're not there. So what's your current state of motivation and I guess admiration of your industry? How are you feeling about it as a woman, as you?
I can tell you after 10 years or more in the entrepreneurship field, I'm getting the recognition that I never would have gotten 10 years ago.
Mm.
I remember more than 10 years ago, even women would tell me, what are you doing? Just go get married, have kids, raise a kid instead of a dog, like these kind of, meaningless encounters. But now the narrative has changed. Like men are using my name to use as a success story. Women coming to me and say, and good for you. We want our girl to be strong like you. And this reminds me, if I may, about an encounter I had at We Lead. We were asked to talk about a challenge and how we addressed it. And when I finished my story to my fellow Nuran, she tells me, "Wow, you don't give up." And then I thought, "Oh my God, for me, that wasn't an option. I didn't know I had the option to give up, right?" Like,
Yeah, to quit. It wasn't an option.
no, but now that I reflect on it, I'm glad I didn't know it was an option. I didn't even consider it.
Right. Is it an option now for anything in your life? Do you feel like I bet, let me say this, as a result of being so focused, right, on your work, there's probably things maybe you haven't quit, but there's probably things you've had to say no to, right? And just say, I'm sure everyone wants you to do everything, but is there something that you've had to say no to?
Yes, a lot of no's.
Mhm. Mhm.
So maybe from the clients, if I felt like I'm giving much more than I should, I would say no.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if it's from the family, if I felt like not time actually, but more of my attention, I would also say no. If it's from my friends who take me for granted, I
Mm.
definitely would say no. I have to admit that I became very elegant at it, actually. They wouldn't notice that I'm saying no.
Yeah.
But now that I'm reflecting on it while talking to you, I have to say I've been saying a lot of no's and I have been being easy on me and taking care of me. I'm doing things that are even preventive in the future for me because, I'm at this place where I feel like I'm seriously thinking of how my life would be as productive retiree, for example. I'm taking care of me, I guess.
Yeah. We all experienced, a similar thing together through COVID, through the pandemic, through economic distress, and how that affected us globally, right? And I remember talking to you and thinking about, what was going on in the United States, but what was also happening overseas. And there were things that were in common. Something I've noticed that not all of us share is emerging from the pandemic and from COVID in a place where we feel like we grew, we got better, we've evolved, and that doesn't mean that we're we're not still suffering in some ways. It was a very hard time in a lot of ways. My question for you is, what do you think made it so that you did well through that crisis, getting through it and on the other side, that you emerge as a better version of yourself? What was it, do you think? How did you get there?
I guess, we had the economic crisis and the Ponzi scheme ran on us right before COVID. So
Mm,
imagine this, you woke up, you don't have any access to $1 in the bank account, and everything is frozen. And life as you know it, career wise, professional wise, changed.
mm.
This was few months before COVID hit. So, if I must say how I cope with it, at first it was very difficult, but I thought I don't have a choice, like usual. I don't know how I am made, but I know that for me, I don't give up. So, with this mentality,
Mm,
I thought of looking at an opportunity. What could be an opportunity for me? I needed cash. I needed cash flow, and I opened the first guest house. It didn't work until COVID hit very well. It worked, and but it worked much better in the COVID situation. And I guess looking into each opportunity from a crisis, like a blessing in disguise, or like with each problem, there comes an opportunity for change. I think I adopted this mindset. And I think I was ready. Like I was someone who worked hard in her life, maybe not in that direction, but these are experiences, 10 years teaching at the university, leading focus groups, workshops all over the world, working with 16 different communities. I don't think all of the initiatives that we've done throughout our lifetime they don't account for. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from abundance of experience.
mm,
And by the way, on a personal note, I was also struggling with a very rare, unique disease that led me to not being able to open my mouth
I
and could
remember.
not talk properly and could not eat. So all of those things with my physical problem that did not at that time have any solution, but thanks God for stem cells. So yeah.
So let's stay with that, right? Because I think a lot of what you're talking about in terms of how you've lived your life has been sometimes it's been a choice, and sometimes you've realized later that you didn't think you had one, so you just did it.
Yeah.
When it comes to when we're hurting physically, a lot of our listeners too, living with disabilities, living with mental and emotional health disorders, when you think about that experience of getting diagnosed and having that impediment, walk us through, like, how did it happen? It just one day you woke up, and then what did you do to take care of yourself through that?
Yeah, it was very difficult because it was excruciating. It was not a normal pain. And I was smart and mentally strong about it. Now I also thank myself because even when I was desperate, when I went to the doctors, I'm very lucky that when they told me it's all in your head, you just need to take antidepressants, that I did not listen.
Mm,
Yeah, I did not listen. And until someone explained the problem, but they didn't have the solution. And of course, the stress and maybe cold or weather changes did not help this osteoarthritic issue that I had. So, practically, the joint here, the cartilage disappeared. Now there is a friction, and there was this nerve tension that actually made me look 20 years younger, if you remember. I really looked so young, didn't I?
mm.
Yeah, but now that I'm healthy and good and pain free, no, I could not stay. We cannot have it
Ah,
all. So,
it's true, it's true.
first of all, I was dismissed. This was really bad for my psychological. And also, the pain was too much. Like,
Yeah.
something telling me maybe if you die is better, right? Like, I'm not suicidal, I'm not negative,
Mhm.
I'm still able to be in any way like positive or grateful, but to be frank, it was a very bad time. like like it was like
Mhm.
everything we thought of life was rethought for everyone, like reset. It was a moment of truth. It was like apocalyptic, especially after the apocalyptic explosion of the Beirut port. Like if you put them all together in 1 year,
Oh, yes.
it was really crazy. But, I guess I was mentally strong and I have my faith that really helped me. I mean, you can call it God, karma. Like, why would we have experienced such pain if it didn't have any kind of purpose? Usually, pain is the purpose of the body telling you something. But in my case, it was a big thing and I didn't know what it is. And this is where I worked on myself. I started becoming more patient. I was not patient. Like if I thought of an idea, for me, it was too late.
Uh-huh. I get it.
I took it in the most positive way, but I have to admit I was very lucky because I found an innovative alternative medicine, which is stem cells treatment. And the doctor told me, you've got only 70% chance. I said, let's do it. I'm desperate. I would do anything. And 7 months later, my mouth would open really wide. There's no pain. And I did a lot of good decisions. I did not start painkillers or any heavy drugs because people in this situation tend to need antidepressants, heavy drugs. I mean, I don't judge at all, but I'm so happy that I chose to do it the cleanest way I would know to preserve my body because I was able to get through it with minimum damage.
I think this pain teaching you something, is a powerful sentiment, especially when we're in discomfort, at least in my experience, when I've been going through physical pain or mental pain or emotional pain. You brought up faith. In my own version of that and spirituality, it's like this too shall pass in some ways, right? Like, we're always going to have some level of pain and challenge in our life because that's how we know we're still alive. But knowing that, you can get through it. You've said a number of times, Asil, that you have several different examples in your life of when you've emerged from something difficult. And so I appreciate for our listener, reminding them that if they're going through something difficult, that there's another side, right? And to keep going. And it sounds like you also in that example was a lot of self-trust, like trusting yourself. And I imagine that's something that you've had to do a lot of your life. Did you have any role models growing up? I know you're kind of a self-proclaimed first generation working woman. But like, did you have role models growing up that showed you that way to live?
I did have an aunt who died of cancer, but before that, her life was very difficult. She was not a relative aunt, but she was my mom's kind of sister. I don't know if you guys have this, but I'm one of these people who kind of have like five mothers because my mom has a tribe and they take care of me and they're unique. And Auntie Julie, she taught me everything I know about enduring pain in the most graceful way, whether it was physical or mental,
Mm,
where we kind of laughed while we are so much in pain. And to find the joy in silly moments together. Yeah, she used to impress me because we can still see the pain in her eyes and face. But she was so proud that she would still have a smile. Until this day, if I'm crying, I'm smiling at the same time. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I wonder if there's a word. I'm trying to think in the English language if there's a word for like crying and smiling at the same time. But I wish there was one word in Arabic or like, how would you just,
We should make it up. We should come up with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Emily's conversation with Aseel Honein will continue after a short break.
Aseel's spotlight is on the Lebanese Down Syndrome Association. It was founded in 2006, focused on education, employment, and inclusion for our friends in Lebanon who are living with Down syndrome.
Because it is led by a mother that is very active and has been leading amazing initiatives to raise awareness because to the lack of the inclusiveness of the situation, like Down syndrome babies don't have a space or not being visible in our society. And I found it very touching because for her to be advocating to have more spaces for kids, special kids, and integrated in the society was amazing.
It's more than fundraising, and all great resources always are. They are a place for families to connect and register for support. And that's what this podcast is all about, finding who's missing and sometimes what's missing from your circles. Simply search Lebanese Down Syndrome Association for more detail. You mentioned having 5 mothers and you asked the question of, like, is that something that we have? And, when we talk about culture, right? And there's so many cultures in the world, obviously, but in the United States even, there's so many cultures. And I'll just speak for myself personally. That was not my experience, and I think hearing about it from some of my friends who grew up, with different culture, maybe I didn't grow up with religion. Both of my parents were raised Catholic. My mom's family immigrated from Poland. My dad's family, from what we know, immigrated from Sweden. But we have very little connection to our lineage or our heritage. And I think, the independence that the United States and Americans often get labeled with was my experience. And so even in therapy yesterday with my therapist, she was saying that she's really seen how I have started to lean on people more and not be so self-sufficient. And so when you say 5 mothers and I think about you having all of this support, it sounds amazing. And it sounds like it was really helpful for you. It's not an experience that I'm familiar with, nor I don't think a lot of people that I know.
Well, to tell you the truth, going to college, I was totally on my own. It's not like I had half a mother because
Mm,
it was a situation where they could not help me in it. And I decided to do it in a way, it happened to be in the American way. Like I was living on my own, like working, studying hard, but there were time in my life where I decided, hey, these are my resources. These are my backbone. These people love me. They are different. But if I can find a way to reconnect with them and use their support, I would be stupid not to. So definitely we tend to be alone, self-sufficient, strong, but that's stupid. I mean, lean, of course, delegate, grow, ask, it doesn't hurt. And actually, if you ask, you shall receive. I never asked. I didn't know how to ask.
mhm.
I didn't know. Like now I know very well how to ask.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like going through a couple crises, at least for me, my last mental health crisis taught me how to ask for help. It was like, I don't know if you're like this too, but I had to be in such a bad spot to be able to say, hello, hi, can I have some help? And now, 2 years later, 3 years later, I ask for help all the time, like every day. But it's not, it's difficult to do. Why do you think or do you think it's difficult to ask for help?
Well, I think that being a woman is a difficult thing.
Amen. Yes. In my life, it's like I've gotten much better in my 40s at just like anything can change anytime. And part of what I'm focused on is relationships because I want the who in my life to be people I can count on so that everything else that happens is easier because at least I've got people to laugh with and people who love me alongside me.
Yes, you need your tribe. You are right. You need it.
I actually want to learn a little bit more about Indigo Cow Spa. If you haven't followed Indigo Cow Spa on Instagram, you will after this episode, listener. It's gorgeous. So tell me about what this business means to you to have a guest house, to have a creative, recreational place where people can really enjoy Lebanon as a country, a rural area of the country. And how long has it taken to get to this point where you have 11 guest rooms?
While destiny took me to this place where I was just flipping it and fixing it and hosting my first stayers, I didn't know what I was doing. By the way, indigo means, blue, purple, but also for the chakras here, indigo means when you have blue around this area, it means that you are a maker, like you realize your ideas. And this is what indigo is about. We use reclaimed material, we build our furniture, we do our designs, we make the events of your dreams. You imagine it, we make it. Most importantly, so close to my heart, it's a place for women and it's a place for development and finding yourself, because in a community as Lebanon, you asked me this at the beginning and I will tell you what it's like. Not all women have choice, and it's still a very patriarchal kind of society that women tend to find themselves maybe happy, even employed, even maybe kind of have a life, but the truth is many times they end up maybe doing big decisions based on very wrong environmental situation where they need to be married or stay in a bad marriage just because. So we have difficult situations that do not help a woman to progress in society. I will tell you a little bit about it. It's more of a social enterprise. We are for profit, but while we are doing very meaningful projects, but also we have nonprofit initiatives that we do. And sometimes we thought of ourselves as architects as elitist and only us, we can understand the concept and the vibes. Not true. If it's not translated to even to a child in a space coming and experiencing it, the spirit of the place, we mean we failed as designers. And I'm very happy that I'm sharing it with you because I love you. And now you are also already kind of recognizing these efforts and initiatives. So I want to tell you about Indigo Women Initiative that we launched 2 years ago. We're focusing on women in our community who have different issues and they need to work from home. So we're teaching them how to do delicacies that are not very common, and they would be like sellable and they could find their joy by doing them and at the same time making income, and it's really freeing them. But the surprise that come to our mind, it wasn't just the economic participation we are helping at, it was also the mental issue. Many women, maybe they have kids who traveled and they left Lebanon and they send them money, so they kind of are like well off or settled, but they don't have any purpose in life. And they found their purpose with us, like helping us with the events, helping other women, having this camaraderie. So now we are a coalition of more than 500 women in the community who all have stories. It's so enriching meeting them. At the beginning of my life and career, I was not into, womenhood and sisterhood. And I was more one of the guys. I was
Yeah.
practical, I was mean. But now I feel like, no, it was very difficult opening doors for me. And that was because I was a woman, but I chose at that time not to see it. And now it's my job to open these doors because I feel and I know that I can and I should. So this is a very close to my heart initiative that we don't get to do always. There were times where we couldn't do it, imagine, because politically we were even. And now this is a success story for me. When you are politically in the region, fought for these grants not to happen,
Mm. Mhm.
which means that we are taking from the market share of some politicians who would think that we have any kind of ambitions to run for something like that, which is not true. I'm a totally independent private sector kind of girl, and I would not change that. But I'm so proud to be doing real development for the area, because other kind of help for me are just help. They are not development.
Mhm.
And this way, we are helping them with their marketing, with positioning themselves. Maybe if they don't even want to go in that career, we are helping them just be productive and helpful.
Wow. That's incredible. I'm imagining because again, I've seen, at least on social media, I've seen what it looks like, the resort and the guest house, and imagining all these women coming together and having a chance to collaborate and create and, the sisterhood, right? And I relate very much to what you said about there's been times in my life where I've thought, being a woman is who I am, and that has been in some ways not something I want to draw attention to. It's like, just treat me like everyone else. And that's true alongside there are really interesting challenges and opportunities when you identify as female. And so I think it's both, right? We want everything that men have access to, and talking about sort of the unique challenges that come with being a woman. And I hear you reclaiming, right? Like, this is who I am, and this is an important part of who I am. And by the way, women are looking up to you as someone who's inspiring and doing something that motivates them. Also, men are looking at you, as you said in the beginning. It's like, you've been teaching, you've been doing this for a long time. Like, you're an architect, you are a business owner. Those are just the facts. You can't argue with it.
I remember at the time where I didn't know what I was doing because I'm an architect and a developer, and suddenly I'm in hospitality running operations. But I think I had a vision. I'm determined, and I was enjoying the ride. And today I had someone call me to say, you're really special. We've been mentioning your name in a lot of places as an example, because if you told us in this location 10 years ago, someone would make a project out of it, we would say, you're crazy. This could have not been imagined because it has been undermined, this area. Like when I started it, they say, who would go there? And now it's a hidden gem, right? Like, I guess it took courage because I was the architect, I was the builder, I was the contractor, I was everything, So I did it,
Yeah.
and that's not very smart to do everything, but I had to do it that way. But now I'm happy and I can expand in the professional way where I can delegate and not just be wearing like 7 hats.
Oh, if I had another hour to talk to you, we would talk about exactly that. But here's what I want to sort of close with. I know you. I know you're on this mission to inspire people and to have more creative and critical thinkers in the world. You created Architecture in a Box. You founded Indica Kausba. You're teaching young people, especially young women, the ins and outs of, running a business. What is the next big vision for you?
Actually, I'm planning to scale Architecture in a Box outside Lebanon and scale also my coaching business outside Lebanon. So let's see how that's going to happen.
What coaching business? Tell me about that.
Yeah, of course. So, Parallel Studio become formally registered company that we offer leadership and trainings and team building and innovation programs. And we landed big projects in the GCC, like we're talking about Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Iraq, and I worked really hard at the past 2 years to make that happen. So now, with this kind of portfolio, we're trying to structure it in a way where it's more scalable, but at the same time with the same impact and value, because that worked. And when you are a startup, you can afford innovation. And as you grow, bureaucracy happens in a way where you less innovate. So, no, we want to stay like small startups or something like that to make it not lose the essence of keeping innovating, keeping clients coming and satisfied and happy. Because I think that if a company comes in with their employees and we were able to give them objectives that they really need and want to be more productive and happy at the workplace, I mean, it's a win win situation. I don't want to grow so much that for any reason these people are not 100% satisfied. So, yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Parallel Studio and all the work that you do there.
Don't worry, don't worry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just this award-winning, organization that you also created. I want to ask you in closing, I'm imagining one of my friends listening to this episode and one of our listeners and feeling however they're feeling, but really in a place probably of wanting to grow and innovate and create positive change just like you. Is there anything that you want to say to the person listening, like just to give them permission to do or be?
Yeah, I give you the permission to find everyone who needs your service, that you are passionate about giving 100%. And that would be a way to turn passion into profit. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Why not? I love it, and I love you. I'm so happy for you and all that you're doing, and we will meet again.
I hope sure soon. And if you're ever into coming back to Lebanon, you will have a home and a very nice place to stay in.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're listening to today's episode. I hope you share it with people close to you, along with an insight that it gave you. And if you want to take a look at some reels, some shorts, some video, Instagram and YouTube is where you want to go. And of course, you can always go to our website to interact with us there, submit questions, submit feedback, who'smissingpodcast.com. Oh, Lebanon is happening. No doubt about it.
Let's plan it.